We are here today with Dawn Falcone, aka the Chaos Liberator. She empowers overwhelmed mompreneurs to cut through the clutter and chaos of their home, schedule, and mind so they can rock their biz and stop losing it with their family. Very important work. Her work has appeared in Real Simple, the Chicago Tribune, Apartment Therapy, and HGTV.com, just to name a few. Dawn resides in a small but efficient apartment in New York City with her Renaissance man husband and her spirited 6-year-old, otherwise known as Monkey Boy. You can find her at dawnfalcone.com, and we'll have that link in the show notes. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here, and I'll get into that here in just a minute, but I've got to know, have you always been organized, or did this come out of necessity?
I actually think I got a lot of training growing up because I grew up with a mother who was chronically disorganized. And I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who was the polar opposite. So I learned from my grandmother and practiced on my mother. I spent rainy Saturdays cleaning out my mom's closet, the kitchen cabinets, and so I got a lot of practice. So in my own life, I've been very organized. The stuff has never been an issue for me. But after I had my son in 2008, the other forms of clutter started creeping into my life and really kind of paralyzed me in some ways. And I eventually got very sick. So sick to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed on some days. And it was then that I realized, hey, wait a minute. Clutter comes in different forms and it runs much deeper than the stuff. And while I've been helping women for years in New York City get rid of the stuff, the other parts of clutter, really hurt me and took me down and affected me as, a wife, a mom, a business owner. And so I was determined to cut through that and get over it. And once I was better, I kind of changed my business a bit. So I do focus on this stuff too, but we go much deeper and we talk about all the other forms of clutter and how it can affect you and your well-being and what we can do to get rid of it.
Oh, that is awesome. Now, I know you specialize in working with mompreneurs, moms who are also entrepreneurs, and our audience certainly includes those, but I want to stress that if you are working with the ultimate multitaskers, then I know these tips are going to work for everybody. So I am super, super, super excited about it. So let's talk about the stuff, which always reminds me of George Carlin's skit about people's stuff that they collect. Let's talk about a little bit later overstuffed schedules and mind stuffing as well. And I know for me, part of being whole has meant dropping excuses. That's been my big focus for 2015 for sure. And in focusing on that, what I have realized is how much I have padded myself through stuff, through business, through beliefs, all to protect me. So let's start with unpacking that, and I trust that all of the questions that I have for you are going to collectively offer up for the highest good of everyone listening. So, that said, how does clutter affect your well-being? You alluded to that by talking about how you got really sick.
Yeah, first of all, clutter, there's actually been studies on clutter that have shown that when people are viewing a desk that's piled with papers and stuff thrown all over the place, it raises their heart rate. And if looking at clutter, just viewing clutter, raises your heart rate, that of course is going to start releasing stress hormones, and it really is going to affect your well-being. It also can make you less productive because you have so many distractions around you when you're surrounded by too much stuff. So clutter in general can affect your well-being, it can affect your home life, it can affect your kids. If you looking at a pile of stuff in the corner of your living room stresses you out, it also can do the same thing with your kids and your family. So, clutter really can affect your well-being. This is something I always say to because I work a lot with families, and I always say to them, one thing you have to keep in mind when it comes to clutter is, just like pain, everybody has a different threshold. So your clutter threshold may be very different from your husband's, and it's something that you've got to sit down and discuss if you are both, going to get on board with letting go of some of the extra, I call crap, the extra
Yeah.
crap that you've got in your life. It can't be just the woman in the household doing it all herself. You cannot go it alone, because the system won't work if you're the only one keeping it up. It'll just become another thing on your to-do list. So in order to get everybody on board, you've got to sit down and have a serious conversation with your partner and talk about the different thresholds that you have. For you, a pile of papers on the dining room table may drive you insane, but your husband may not even notice it. So, so you're screaming and yelling at him about, the clutter and this, get the crap off the table, and he doesn't even know what you're talking about, because it doesn't really affect him in the same way. So if you really talk about it and he understands how that stuff makes you feel, it's going to make the whole process a little bit easier. That's the first place that I always tell my clients to start in. You've got to get everybody else on board if you're going to do this, and you've got to talk about how all of this stuff in your home is affecting you, because it may not be affecting everyone to the same level.
I totally get that, because my sweetheart and I are very different on this in some ways. And I know he said he was really interested in listening to this, so I got to give a big shout out to him. I love you. And talk about, so with different personalities and people who have different values around cleanliness and clutter, are there different kinds of organizing, and is there a way to start to shift if one person is more than the other to bring it more into a balance?
Yeah, that's a really important thing. I feel like a lot of times the systems that we put into place on our own don't necessarily work, because we're organizing based on our personalities. This is a prime example in my household. I like everything out of sight. I don't like to see anything out. So my office, everything goes behind closed doors. I file everything. My husband is the opposite. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. He'll forget that he even has it, and he will not file. Believe me, I have set up more than 100 file systems for him. He will not file to save it. Like, it's just not his thing. So you really have to take in mind who that person is and their personality, and try to gear things towards them, but also come to some common ground. Because if you've got 5 people in the house, you don't want 5 completely different organizing systems for every person. That'll drive you insane. So you really have to try to find some common ground, and a lot of it is through trial and error and trying things out. So for my husband, who will not file, the system that we've come up with is, we have envelopes, and big manila envelopes, and receipts go in one for the year. And believe me, he won't even break down the receipts. I've tried that. All of his receipts go in one, his checks go in another, important documents go in another, and at the very end of the year, right when we go through all of our stuff for our accountant, he then organizes it and breaks it down, and then I file it away for him. So he files, he doesn't file at all. I file once for him at the very end of the year, after he's already broken everything down. So, you have to just, especially with kids, you've got to try to work with them and find systems that work for them, not for you. And this is tough, I think, for some of our moms out there to accept, that your house may never look like, it belongs on the cover of House Beautiful, because it may never, be perfect in that sense. But what we're really striving for is not perfection. Protection, I was going to say. Perfection. We really want to be able to have a more serene home. We don't want our kids running around in the morning and screaming that they can't find what they need, and we have 5 minutes to get them out the door before they're late for school. We have to really determine what's the most important thing to us. Is it having some kind of, control and serenity in the house, or is it having a house that looks so beautiful that your friends and neighbors want to come in and take pictures of it? So, I think for us, I'm a type A, I had to let some of the perfection go. You know, there are organizing systems. My husband's corner does not look the way that I would want it to look, but you know, it works for him. He can find stuff, and I'm not embarrassed by it when people come over. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to organizing. There are different personalities. There's different things we can do for our kids, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But we have to let go of the perfection. And, you know, we got to let go of the dream that it's going to look like a designer house all the time.
Right. So once you have a system in place, how do you keep it going?
You know, one thing that you have to do to keep it going, especially when there's kids, I'm a big fan of starting small. So instead of, you know, saying to your family, we're organizing the entire house, which is really overwhelming to everybody involved, start small. Start in one area that everybody uses, and you can make a big impact. I'm a big fan of starting in the entryway or the mudroom because it's usually a smaller space. There's, you know, there's a lot of different techniques you can use, even for the kids, to get it together. And it's a spot that you can tweak and make changes as you go along. So start small. And in a place like the entryway, something to keep in mind is if you want your kids to hang up coats, which I would love that myself. I would love that very much. But you have to keep in mind something. You know, is there a closet in the entryway? Can your kids actually reach, you know, where the coats are supposed to go? Make it very simple for them. Put hangers or put hooks at their level, at their height, so that they can easily do it. Actually show them what has to be done and let them get involved in the process. When kids are a little bit more involved in the process, I find that they're better able to keep it up. So even something so simple as everyone's going to get their own hook. You can choose your hook. You know, here's the 3 hooks that mommy likes. Which one do you want out of the 3? Something as simple as that can make a big difference for the kids. So start small, start in a space that, you know, is a little bit easier to contain. And remember that it's going to take time to make it a habit. If for years your kids have been walking in the door and dumping everything, you know, on the floor, it's going to take a little time to get them in the habit of hanging up the coat, hanging up the book bag, putting their shoes in a certain spot. But if you're very clear on this is what we're going to do, and we're starting it on such and such a date, and, you know, make it part of their chores. Make it something that they have to do before they can move on to something that they really want to do, like, you know, their computer time or their TV time. And realize that it's going to take a little bit to make it a habit, and it's going to take you being on them a little bit and reminding them. But just like anything else, if you do it enough, it can become something that is just regularly done without even having to ask. And as far as how do you maintain the system, you may have to tweak things, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you fail. It just means that after living with something for a while, maybe you find that for your kids, it's better to have just a basket by the door, and that worked better than anything, to throw all their stuff in a basket. Maybe the hooks, you know, work for the coats, but not for everything else. So it's okay to tweak the system as you go along. As a personal organizer, I often go back to my clients' homes after they've lived with it for a few months, and we tweak things, and we make them better, and we make them more effective. So if you're doing this on your own, remember that you're probably going to have to do that down the line as well. And before you move on to the rest of the house, work on one area and let your kids work on it for at least, you know, 8 weeks, and really try to get through it and make it a habit before you move on and start a new system somewhere else, because we don't want to overwhelm them. And that doesn't mean that you can't be organizing as that's going on. There's lots of areas in the home that just you, you know, the mom has to deal with, like the kitchen cabinets or the linen closet or your own closet. You can keep working on that stuff, but when you're putting systems in place for the family, don't put them all in place at once. Start in one easy area. Let them actually feel like they've accomplished something by keeping it up before you then move on to another area.
Perfect. So One more in this area, and this is for all of you who, like our family here, has a dining room table right when you walk in from the garage. And that's often, as we walk in, we're carrying mail, and the mail gets set there. But both of our offices are upstairs on a totally different level. So, what's a good trick that people can use to get that to the places that it needs to be without it turning into a big cluttered dining room table?
Mail clutter. I deal with mail clutter, so paper clutter, mail clutter. I find the easiest thing to do, truthfully, is to have a system right when you walk in the door, and it's a mail drop system. And junk mail automatically gets tossed or recycled, and it can be something as simple as a place on the wall where there's places for you and your husband. You can separate it, maybe some of the mail that comes for your kids. But I find that wherever you actually drop the mail, the place where you walk in, that's where the mail sort system has to go. Because let's be real, we're not going to carry it up the stairs every day when we get the mail. If you have one place where it can accumulate, that's not on the table, that's not driving you crazy, that's out of the way, when it's time to pay your bills, you simply go right to that place, you grab it, and you head upstairs with it, if that's where your office is. The goal is, to get it off the dining room table and to not have it end up spread out all over the house. So then when you need it, you're searching for it. So if you have one drop place, and what I'm finding now, I'm in New York City, so we don't have mud rooms. Our entryways are very tiny. Mail's a big issue for us as well, the paper stuff. And I usually create systems right where my clients walk in. And it ends up being, their entryway. And usually because of lack of any other kind of space, we have to put it on a wall. But if you have a piece of furniture in the dining room that you can also set something up for your mail system, that's amazing. Yay for you. But we usually set it up right on the wall. And it can be something really simple. And it's just to separate it. And then once you go and you pay your bills, you come down and at least you know where it all is. But yes, mail it's such a big part of my job, creating mail systems for families. I feel like I could almost do a whole segment just on that, but it's a big issue for everybody. And another thing to keep in mind too is if you're really trying to get rid of clutter in the new year, and one thing you can do is to stop some of the paper from coming in. I know a lot of us pay our bills online, but just because you're paying your bills online doesn't mean that you stop receiving the actual, the paper. So you have to opt in for that. I want to pay my bills online, yes, but I also want to go paperless. So I encourage all of my clients to go as paperless as possible, because paper is just something that drives everybody crazy, and eventually everyone starts feeling overwhelmed by it. So, go paperless. Any way that you can, go paperless.
Perfect. So now let's talk schedules. You call this time magic. Is there a planner that you use or you recommend that you really enjoy?
I really love the Passion Planner.
I just got mine.
Did you just get yours?
I did.
I love it. I love it because I feel like it's so much more than just a planner. It's a place where I can put all of my thoughts, all of my ideas, and really break down what the important things are. We all have these massive to-do lists, but if we really look at our to-do list, there's some things that are really more important than others. And I think, at least with me and a lot of my moms, we get so caught up in the other stuff, that our to-do lists are huge and they're overwhelming. And something about the Passion Planner has made me be able to just really focus on what's important and my top priorities. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I've already recommended it to about 15 clients. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. I just think it's a really great planner.
What needs to be added every month to keep you sane?
So the first thing that I always add every month at the start of the month to my calendar is time for myself. And I give myself 2 hours, which is not a lot in the month, but it's 2 hours spread out through the month, an hour here, an hour there. That is just time for me. It is not doing anything for the PTA. It's not involving my child at all, even not involving my husband. Sorry, honey. It's just time for me. And I put it on there, and it can be something as simple as Thursday, I'm going for a facial. I've had that on my calendar from December. And I book the appointment, and it's an hour just for me. It can be having lunch with a friend. It could be sitting alone in your house for an hour, drinking a cup of tea and reading a book. But I think we really forget ourselves all the time, and we have to start adding it in on the calendar. We always think we'll get to it, right? Of course, I'll have time to do something for myself. I can go get a pedicure. I'll do that this week, and 3 weeks go by before you do it. So I found that I actually have to schedule that time, and I keep it just like I would a doctor's appointment. If a client wants to book me and I've got my facial already booked on Thursday, I'm not available, because that time is just as important as all of the other appointments that we have going on in the month.
I think that's wonderful. I bought two of the passion planners, one for me and one for my sweetie, and I bought his with a very different intention, because he has said on so many occasions that he comes home and doesn't remember what he did throughout the day. And I know I have experienced this too. And so he has a pretty good system in place through work electronically, where everything is connected for a calendar. And I bought his passion planner just so that he could journal throughout the day what was happening, and so that he can look back at the end of the day and say, okay, here's where I'm really spending my time. So are there any tips that you have for people who are feeling in that overwhelm, even if they have brilliant planning systems, but they're not, at the end of the day, they don't really know where they spent their time?
Well, I'm a big fan of, is it called Rescue Me? It's an online tracking system that basically at the end of the week will tell you exactly where you spent your time online. And for me, it's been really helpful, because I've been spending too much time on Facebook.
I was going to say, does this thing make you just horrified by what you really are spending your time on?
First of all, I have to say, for me, Facebook is like crack. And I don't know, I don't have an addictive personality, but something about Facebook has made, it can be great. I've made so many connections and I've reconnected with people, but it can also be a huge time suck. So once I signed up for this program, it then will break down exactly how much time you're spending on everything. And it is horrifying. And I saw how much time I was spending on Facebook. So it really helped me scale back. And that's actually one of my goals for the new year, is to spend even less time. And I started automating, so I go to Hootsuite, and on a Monday morning, I put all of my business, I put all of I do all of my social media in one swoop, so that I'm not going there as much. Because what I found was, every morning when I go to my business page and I'm putting in a cute little update, before I know it, I've been on there for 2 hours. So with Hootsuite, I don't have to go, in there at all. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going in there, but I actually have had to set time during the day. Okay, this is my Facebook time, and that's it. So yes, I use that program, and it's been really helpful to me. I think in general, we just have way too much going on in our lives, and we're overscheduling ourselves, and we're overscheduling our kids, and our days are just a blur. And I think that we have to, that's why I look at my calendar at the beginning of the month, and I add the time for myself. I add time for my husband and I in there. I look at what is going on at my son's school. I add that stuff in there. I add his activities, and then I kind of take a couple of deep breaths, and I look at that calendar, and if I feel overwhelmed, just by that stuff, and I haven't even added in my work stuff yet, my doctor's appointments, that's a sign that there's just too much going on. And, what do we have to say yes to everything? Do we have to go to every single school function and fundraiser? What can we let go of so that we have some days that we can just be together and not have to run off somewhere? And I really think that looking at your calendar at the beginning of every month, at least for my family, has been really helpful. And we schedule days where Sunday was one of those days. We stayed in our pajamas all day Sunday and played with toys. We had a movie party. We didn't schedule anything. We were invited to things, but we looked at our calendar, and our weekends are so booked for the rest of the month that, we said no to the invitations, and we had a day where we just relaxed and were together. And I have to tell you, my son loves those days. He really looks forward to those days, even more than the parties and the play dates. And, kids need this too. So I highly recommend doing a monthly calendar review. And if just looking at everything is stressing you out, take some stuff off.
Yeah, I think giving yourself permission to say no is a huge empowerment.
Huge.
Yeah. So I heard that you have a secret sauce on how 15 minutes can change your entire day. Please share.
So as you can tell, I'm a big fan of baby steps and not overwhelming yourself. And in 15 minutes, this is something you do the night before. I call it 15 minutes at night to wake up right. And it's a family thing, so get your mind out of the gutter if it went there. This is a family thing that everybody does. It's 15 minutes, and it can really change your mornings, which then can change your whole days. So my clients set a timer. They have a time at night. Maybe it's before they go to bed, the kids go to bed. Maybe it's before the kids get to have a little bit TV time, so this is their incentive. And for 15 minutes, the whole family is doing this. They pack their clothes. They get all their clothes out for the night before that they need for the day. The kids pack their bags, their book bags, with everything they need. So the homework goes in there, their projects. If they've got gym, the gym clothes go in there. If they've got music, the instrument, everything goes in there. And mom and dad, you do the same. You pack your bag, your work bag. If you're one of my lucky moms who gets to work from at home, you don't have to do it. But you actually, at that time when everyone's doing that stuff, you're making your to-do list for the next day, so you have it ready. Everything is set by the door as far as your bags. All the kids' book bags are right by the door where they walk out. The clothes are put on a hanger. I go as far as to tell them, have your kids put everything on that hanger, from their socks, their underwear. Get a plastic bag, stick it over the hanger, put whatever hair thing or accessory the girls want to wear, because we all know that sometimes, that and alone, having the girls look for the right hair thing or the right piece of the right accessory can really drag our mornings down. So everything gets ready, and it takes 15 minutes. Actually, most of my families end up getting it down to less than 15 minutes, and it's done. And what that does is help with the chaotic mornings, because one of my biggest complaints I get from my families is our mornings are awful. It's filled with screaming, running around. Where's this? Let's go. Hurry, hurry, hurry. And this has cut that out completely. They get up in the morning, clothes are ready. The bag is there. We're not searching when we have 2 minutes to get out the door looking for a sheet music for a music class. It's already packed, and everybody walks out the door. And having a morning without yelling, screaming, rushing around, obviously will impact the rest of your day, because you're starting your morning in a much more calm and smooth way, which is then going to mean, the rest of your day starts off better. If you start your day better, the rest of your day is going to go better. You're not going to get in your car with road rage already because you were screaming all morning long. So it's a really small thing. And I almost feel like when I tell people this, like, oh yes, of course, I know that, but they're not actually doing it. So actually do it. It takes 15 minutes. You can get it down to less than that once you get going, and it can really impact your day.
Oh, that's brilliant. All right, saving the best for last, the clutter in the brain, the monkey brains. What are some sure signs of mental clutter?
So there's so many, but here's a few. Here's the top ones. So brain noise. You just can't shut your brain off. There's always something going on in your head, whether you're running your to-do list constantly or you're replaying your day and you're beating yourself up about everything you did wrong. That's one of the signs. You can't focus. No matter what you do, you're having a hard time focusing. You're so overwhelmed by everything going on that your brain is just scattered. So by not focusing, you're really not getting anything done. Some people may call it procrastination. A lot of times I find my clients are not getting things done because there's just so much chaos in their brains, they don't even know where to start. So it's almost paralyzing them. Brain fog is another thing. You just kind of walk through your day and don't even understand what really happened and what took place. And, you go back and sit down and have to replay everything you actually did do during the day. One thing that I always tell people is your brain and your body are connected. So sometimes there's really easy things you can do to stop the monkey brain. Like, maybe your brain starts wandering off when your blood sugar gets low. So, or when you have an empty stomach. So, look at things like that. Maybe you ate too much sugar and your brain is just, completely out of control. Some people have to exercise, and if you've gone a couple of weeks without exercising, then your brain starts going all over the place and you start feeling scattered. So something as simple as exercising 3 times a week for 20 or 30 minutes can help people really calm. It's not only good for your body, it's good for your brain, and it can actually calm, the monkey brain. But there's other things that you can do too to help with the monkey brain. So those are the signs of mental clutter. I find most of my clients, and this is where I fell into as well, all of these different forms of clutter are kind of connected. So while you may not have the stuff, you may not have too much stuff, it doesn't mean that, you overloading your schedule isn't affecting other parts of your well-being. So for me, once I had my son, I started overloading my schedule. I had to be like, crazy perfect mom and wife and business owner, and I didn't give myself time to breathe, which then led to monkey brain, and I couldn't shut it off at all, and it kept me up all night long. So, keep in mind that clutter is related. So usually if you have one form of it, it can trigger another. So by controlling or getting one form of it under control, it will help the other. So for you, you may have too much stuff, and that is contributing to your monkey brain. So by slowly clearing out this stuff and getting your house in order, that can help, your mind relax as well.
What are some techniques to declutter the brain?
So a couple of things that I learned to do is, one, ask myself certain questions when my brain started just going completely out of control. Is the situation relevant? That's a question I started asking myself. Is it serious? Am I making a mountain out of a molehill? Because sometimes when your brain is so cluttered, you just keep building and building and building things up, and before you know it, you've taken this little situation and blown it up in your mind, and it may not even be real. So I asked myself, questions. I also started making lists. I've always been kind of a list maker, but I started making lists to help me because I felt like I was overwhelmed and I had too much going on in my brain. And just by taking it out of my brain and making a list of what I really needed to do, what was the most important thing, and I kept it to very simple, the 3 things I wanted to accomplish each day, that helps control my brain a little bit. I automated a lot of things. I found that helped me a lot, not having to worry about, oh my gosh, did I pay that credit card bill on time? I automated all of the parts of my life that I could, so I didn't have to worry about it anymore. And I am a big fan of brain dumping. Before I go to bed at night, I brain dump. I have a notebook by the side of my bed, and everything that's going on in my head, I just put it down there. It doesn't even make sense. I don't go back and read it necessarily. It's just a way to get those thoughts out of my head so that I can relax. I mean, some people use Evernote, and that's a big thing for people. If you're an ideas person and you constantly have ideas going on in your brain, if you put them all down on Evernote, it's something that you can go back and look at so that you don't lose them. But those are the things that I did to help calm my brain. And then I learned how to breathe better. So I had breathing exercises that I could do that help calm me down. And I meditate now, which I was never good at that before. And it took me a long time to relax enough to learn how to meditate. And I found that for me, the voice matters. So when I'm listening to a meditation, I had to find a voice that works for me. And I had friends, oh, this person's great, and I would listen to it, and their voice would drive me nuts. So the only person that I can meditate to is Deepak Chopra. Something about his voice, I don't know. It just suits me. So it was through a lot of trial and error with the meditation thing. But I meditate in the morning, and I'm not meditating as long as I would like. But I sit still and I breathe, and I meditate to Deepak Chopra for about 10 minutes in the morning. And that helps me through the rest of the day. It helps calm my brain through the rest of the day.
I have to share with you, because I'm the same way. Voice has a huge part on if I can drop into the meditation or not. But I had an episode, and I'll relink it in our show notes, with Leanne Milkey, who's a tea expert. And she taught the tea meditation, and I thought this was just so amazing, and I even went out and bought a glass teapot just to be able to do this. She starts you off with, as you turn the water on, you're thinking about where that water comes from and how we are all like 70% water, and the importance of water in our life, and how this water is transformative to the tea leaves themselves. It turns it into the tea and not just the leaf. And it took water to grow those tea leaves. And then as you're putting the tea leaves into the pot, she talks about thinking about the people who collected this tea, thinking about the area where the tea is grown, and practicing gratitude for all of that. And then as you put the water into the tea, just sitting for a few minutes as this tea is brewing and watching the change within the tea itself, watching the color change, start to smell the aroma. And then as you drink that first cup of tea, practicing gratitude again. And it's a really interesting way to focus the brain and bringing in that compassion and interconnectedness. So something to give it a try. I'd love to hear what you think if you ever do it.
And if her voice works for you, I'll try it.
Yeah, it was, well, we went through the process together in an interview, and it was really a beautiful thing. And now I just do it on my own. So there's certain people that sometimes I'll listen to as I'm doing this, and sometimes I'll just do the process as a quiet. I like to wake up before the sun rises, so this is a process for me that as the sun is rising and I'm looking out over my backyard and seeing the changes from night into day, it's a really beautiful, gentle, meditative practice for me.
Oh, I'll definitely try it. Definitely. I'm always looking for new, I'm always trying to expand on my meditation. I mean, the one thing I have to say about, everyone talks about how wonderful meditation is, but I also feel like we have to give ourselves a little bit of a break. It takes time to do it. It's a habit, and you have to get into the habit of doing it. And it takes time to find what kind of meditation works for you. And that's part of the process too. And like I said, I had the issue with voices, and certain voices I couldn't relax. It took time to find the right voice that works for me. And now I can, like you, sometimes I do it on my own. And I can just close my eyes and meditate on my own, listening to some music or just peace and quiet, which doesn't happen very often in New York City. But when I do have the quiet moment, I treasure them, and I can just close my eyes and walk myself through meditation. So whatever works, but it really is a way to calm your whole being. And if you're lowering your heart rate because you're breathing, taking big deep breaths and full breaths, of course that's going to affect your mind as well and help with the monkey brain and calm it down. So yay for meditation. I have to try that.
So with the mompreneurs that you work with, and the more that that I do the work that I do, I see that this is a pretty insidious problem for most people because they're not even aware of how much they do it. How do you help your clients break free of the excuses?
That's a good one. Um, I feel like it's kind of an epidemic in our society that we
Yeah.
use use of busyness, right? I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm overwhelmed. I have, and that's what we use to. It's our excuse now. I'm too busy. I'm overwhelmed. I've got too much going on. So, for my clients, I really hold them accountable to their actions. If someone is going to take the time to work with me, it's an investment. It's not just a financial investment, it's a time investment. So I really sit down and have a serious talk with them before about this is how much time it's going to take. This is getting organized in all areas of your life is a life-changing habit. And life-changing habits take time and practice to implement. So I have serious conversations with them about, no excuses. Once we work together, yes, when I'm working one-on-one with them, whether it's live, in person, or via Skype, they're giving me that time. But they have to then go off and do some of these things that we've talked about. They have to actually implement it. And I'm just kind of firm with them. And I talk about, firm but loving. And I talk about, what is it that you truly want? What life changes are you seeking? And once we go through that, it's almost like a visualization, then this is what we have to do to get there. And are we really willing to do it? And the busy thing isn't going to work with me because the minute a client says to me, I'm too busy, then I make them pull out their calendar and we go through the calendar together. So I
Mm.
find the time. Um, so that doesn't work with me. Clients can't say I'm too busy because they know what's going to come up then. Then I'm going to say, all right, let's look at your calendar. What can we say no to? What can we pull off the calendar? You've got to make time to do this. So I find that, you know, I find that my clients, by the time someone comes to work with me, they're ready. They really are ready. They're tired of feeling overwhelmed. They're tired of their life just feeling like it's passing them by so quickly that they're not really enjoying it. So, they're ready to do it. And they know that I'm not going to take the I'm too busy excuse because I'm too busy means I have way too much on my calendar and I need to take some things off of it. And Dawn is going to take them off for me. so, and I really just think it's about, so many times I feel like when we're saying we're busy, are we really busy or are we just being distracted by all of the other things that really, like Facebook and the internet and all of that stuff. It's why I think, like, the Facebook is crack thing is so true for me. I found that when I was really spending all of my time on Facebook, I wasn't getting as much done. And when people were asking me to do things, whether it was with my son's PTA or, anything out of my daily schedule, I did feel overwhelmed and I did feel like I didn't have enough time. And then once I really started looking at my schedule and where my time was going, I realized how much time I'm wasting in my day. So it's really important to look at your calendar, get rid of the stuff you don't need, and stop. Everybody that's got their smartphones, you don't need instant updates for everything. You don't need to constantly, the minute someone sends you an email, do you really need to read every email the minute it comes in? Do you really need to? I don't even link Facebook up on my smartphone for that very reason. I don't want all of the updates coming to me when I'm spending time with my son or with a client. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of, I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. So I got to ask an organization maven, where do you still hide behind excuses in something that your heart is really calling you to step into right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I was just thinking about this before our call. So I work with clients one-on-one in New York City, and I work with clients privately via, Skype, the internet, and phone. But it's been my dream for a long time to reach people on a broader level and help, mompreneurs and moms in general on a bigger level. And I noticed myself just doing this morning. I've been wanting to create an online course, but I've been struggling with it because I'm feeling like I don't have the time to do it. I don't have the time, I don't have the knowledge, I'm not tech savvy enough. And something kind of clicked this morning, before our call, where I finally said to myself, enough. Is this something you really want to do? Yes, it really is. It's something I want to do because not only do I want to help more people, I want to be able to work from anywhere. I don't want to necessarily have to stay in New York City, schlepping all over the city. But I've been hiding behind excuses for a while. And so right before our call, I sat with Deepak for a little bit and decided that no more excuses. Like, this is the year I'm going to get it done. And I'm not going to hide behind, I'm not tech savvy, so I can't do it. And I'm not going to hide behind that anymore. This is something I'm going to do, and it's going to come out at some point in 2015, and I'm going to find a way to do it, whether it's take a course, and I will find the time in my schedule to take that course, or have someone teach this stuff to me. But I'm not hiding behind my excuse anymore, which is I'm not tech savvy enough. I can't do it. I don't have the time to create another course while I'm working with everybody individually. So there, I share that with you. You're the first person I share that with.
Yay, I'm so honored. And I got to tell you, my wheels are turning right now. So when we end this recording, I got some stuff to share with you.
Okay.
I have one more question, but before I ask that, now that you've got my interest peaked, and I'm sure everybody else listening, do you have a place where we can all sign up on your website so we can find out about when this course is ready?
Yes. So my
Wonderful.
website is Dawn Falcone, FALCONE.com. And if you go to my website, right now it's just a landing page, but there is a place to put your email address in. It's just a landing page because my other website, which is dawnfalconelifestyles.com, that's my website for all of my one-on-one New York City clients. So you can go there too, or you can go to my Facebook page, which is Dawn Falcone Lifestyles. But any one of those places, if you put your email in, I will get the information to you.
Perfect. Dawn, what does whole being mean to you?
Whole being to me is about reaching your full potential. Whole being to me is about not feeling overwhelmed, not feeling like life is, a blur and it's passing you by. It's about really being connected as a woman, really being connected to myself, to my body, to my spirit, to my mind, and using that in a positive way to help other women, and using it in a positive way in my own home so that my boys and I are moving through life with joy instead of rushing through life. And yeah, I think that's what whole being is to me. And as a working mom, as a business owner, it's something I'm still working on. I'm a work in progress, just like my clients. And I have a lot that I can teach them, but I learn a lot from them as well. So thank you for this is a wonderful show, and I'm really, really honored to be a part of it. Because I think what you're putting out there to the world is a really beautiful thing.
Oh, thank you so much. And I am so excited to get organized. I think my sweetheart's going to be a little scared when he comes home, having listened to this and going, uh-oh, where are we starting? But I really appreciate all of the insight. You have just shared so much. And I think for everybody who's really made that commitment to living intentionally and to being whole, these are the disciplines, the daily disciplines that we take that allows us that freedom to be whole. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.